Uh, this letter, unfortunately, is from Jessica. I'm not going to tell you where it's from. I can tell you it's from the West Coast. That's as much as I can tell you. It's from Jessica. She's no longer a Jehovah's Witness, and she'll explain why. Dear brothers of the Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, I was a sister for a very long time. I devoted myself to Jehovah since the age of my birth, thinking that I would grow up to be a sister just like my mother, who would have a family and everything that she has and everything that she would deserve. I would continue to push forward. Since when I was a baby and onward to my little childhood, I remember always going out in service with my parents, constantly giving everyone a pamphlet or giving them a tract, making sure that everyone could know the precious word of Jehovah. The precious word of Jehovah, unfortunately, started to bite me back when I noticed that things were happening that weren't just right. When I was starting the age of 4, my oldest brother started to have carnal relations with me. He would rape me every single day, constantly. My brother was a lot older than I was. He was in his late 20s at this time and was a ministerial servant. For the longest time, I didn't know why this was happening to me. He would always tell me that it was my fault and that I lured him into it and that I wanted it. And for many, many years, I thought that that's what I did, since he would always tell me to go down to the basement, and I would always be there before he would get there. I would always think to myself, it was my fault. Not only was I abused by my oldest brother, but by my father's brother as well. He was a man in his late 40s, and he also abused me from before then. He was the first man who had ever touched me in my life, and he started touching me from the time I was a baby. It started with heavy petting, and as you can guess, it went on to more carnal, sinful things. Things that you wouldn't do to an animal was done to me. To this day, my scars will always be there, bleeding, bleeding, bleeding. Jehovah was my stronghold for a very long time. But the sexual abuse continued. I was abused altogether by 8 different men who professed to be Jehovah's organization. Some of them elders, ministerial servants, and one Bethelite. Each one of them continued to violate me over and over again. I felt like the Watchtower's whore. At the age of 18, after a very, very long, and I mean long, pioneering and baptism, I had a nervous breakdown. I screamed at the top of my lungs what was going on. I told my father everything. I told my mother everything. I was on bended knees. I dropped a glass plate before I went on my knees, cutting myself vigorously. The flesh from my knees flayed away as I screamed about everything that happened to me. I couldn't keep it in anymore. The fact that these men would continue to rape me in every single way possibly, I didn't know what to do, because everything was told that you needed witnesses. But what witnesses are there in the dark? What witnesses are there when there's someone holding your mouth shut? What witnesses are there when you're being pummeled to death, physically, sexually, and emotionally? I asked my mother and my father to listen to my cries, but rather than do that, they didn't listen to a word I said. They said that I had no basis and I had nothing to say, and the best thing for me to do was to get on with my life and forget it ever happened. They took me to the hospital and told me never to say anything about it. When I was in the hospital, one of the psychiatrists came up to me and asked, did I cut myself? And I said, no, I fell onto the plate after it fell to the floor, and I wanted to tell my parents something very important. He continued to try to peel me open like a banana, but it would not help. I would not exchange I would not exchange what I said to my parents because I would honor them above all things. And I didn't say a word. 2 days later, I met the love of my life, and I left with him. Later on, I came back. A year later, I came back, and I explained to the elders what was going on. I pointed out who and what exactly was going on because I could no longer go on with this demonic things in my heart and in my mind. These elders, supposed elders and men of Jehovah, acted more like Catholic priests than anything that I've ever seen in my life. The first thing, they asked for witnesses. But as I said earlier in this message, who can be a witness in the dark? I asked them, can Jehovah God be my witness? They laughed at me. I could not believe that they laughed at me. Me who has served Jehovah with all my heart since the age that I could actually crawl. Me who served Jehovah with every ounce of my being, who was there for everything from regional building committees to pioneer to even feeding the construction workers. Everything that Jehovah had to do, I was there for it. And when they needed me, when I needed them the most, they betrayed me. I went against each and every one of them, pointing out what sexual depravities they've done to me. And just the same thing I was done to my, sorry, I can't read this part. Just as I was done to Jehovah's servant Stephen, they put their hands over their ears and they rushed at me and almost took me out of the elders' room and left me out there while they discussed for hours what to do with me. I felt just like Stephen about to be stoned. It made no sense whatsoever what was going on.
Johnny, are you still there? Johnny?
We lost him some way.
Oh, what a powerful letter, though, so far.
That's some letter. Never heard anything like that before.
Wow.
I hope he's able to get back on.
Yeah, me too. Well, he's probably been at the cafe for quite a while, so I don't know how long his battery lasted. Or
Right.
Would last. Wow. Yeah, that is it makes your own troubles and problems look not near as big, you know.
Yeah, that's that letter. That's just. I mean, how do you explain something like that?
Well, and I was thinking, I think one of the biggest problems with things like that, they're talking about, witnesses and this and that, whereas they should be looking at where's the love of trying to protect someone.
Hello?
Are you back, Johnny?
Hello? Yeah, I'm very sorry about that. I thought I saw some brothers coming my way. There's a bar about 4 blocks down, and I thought I saw a couple of brothers coming my way, so I kind of ducked down a little bit. Let me continue on with the letter. Where was I? Okay. Just as Stephen, I felt as I was waiting to be stoned, waiting for any minute for one of the Pharisees to pick up a stone and hurl it at me and shatter what was left of my soul, praying to Jehovah with tears in my eyes, waiting for them to come out of the elders' room one at a time with such disdain and such scorns in their face. They came with their noses up at me and said, "You have no witnesses for what you would do. Your parents won't back up your claims, and no one else of your family will say what happened to you. We have nothing else but to tell you to forget about what happened, try to move on, and do nothing." When they told me to do nothing, and that if I were to tell anyone, because these brothers were so high-ranked, ministerial servants, elders, and one Bethelite, I was so heartbroken. I thought that Jehovah had left me. I thought that I, instead of the angels who first came down and had carnal relations with women, I felt like I was in spiritual darkness in Tartarus myself. I felt that Jehovah himself had left me in the darkest way, that I was alone finally in this world without any spiritual protection, because how dare I
talk against his witnesses? How dare I speak against my brothers? No matter what they are, they still are Jehovah's servants. Finally, it kind of clicked in my head that I couldn't keep it shut. I couldn't continue to keep my mouth shut. It was time for me to make a stand. That stand came when I had my daughter. My daughter meant everything to me in this world, and I thought that if anything were ever to happen to that little girl, I would do anything in my power to make sure that they would have to do with everything that would come with it, whether it be something that happens to the law or whether it have to be monetary or any type of way. Jehovah did give me my conviction back with that little girl, even though finally they came back to me and I had to come back to the elders because, unfortunately, this little girl was born out of wedlock. And, of course, when they came to me saying that I had made a mistake by having sex before marriage, I laughed so heavily I could not stop, almost hysterically laughing, because almost a year prior, I told them that how much sex before marriage was happening since I was a baby. I could not stop laughing, and they took it as I was laughing towards them. When finally I got to all of my issues and all of my things together, they asked me, why was I laughing? And I said, brothers, I've been telling you that I have been having sex before marriage for as long as I can walk. And now you're telling me because I have had a relationship with a man who I love, who I am now married with, and who now I have his child, that I will be disfellowshipped. I continued to laugh, and they continued to take it as I was taking it lightly. They took less than a few minutes to decide disfellowshipping, even though I said how sorry I was, even though how could I be sorry if this wasn't my first sexual encounter. After that, I thought I would die. They took away the most important things from me, my parents. Even though my parents didn't protect me from the onslaught of these sexual perversions, I still loved them. For Jehovah only gives you one set of parents in your lifetime, and I still miss them. But I still had this little girl to live for, and above all, I had my husband to fall upon. I write this letter to hopefully show you that there are people out there who are going through hell, literal hell, what the Bible doesn't show as being hell. But hell is a place where you cannot see what's right from wrong. When you're stuck in your own complex words and you're stuck on doctrines that don't allow you to speak and things that won't tell you what to do. I go through every Bible scripture 20 times a day. I go through everything that the Bible brings up, everything the Watchtower says, and nothing was there to protect me as a child, and nothing was there to protect me as a pre-adolescent, as a teenager, and even as an adult, as my brother would continue to rape me and have to take turns with another brother and another brother and another brother. To this day, those wounds will never heal, as not even my husband can touch me without me flinching. And I don't mean touch me in any other way than even give me a hug or a kiss or even hold my hand without me flinching. Every night I have terrors. I am medicated severely because of what has happened to me. And because of everything that has happened, the elders in my hall told me that if I ever want to speak to my parents again, the best thing that I can do is to keep my tale silent. So I continue to stay silent, hoping and praying that you brothers in Bethel can intervene on my part, can tell my elders that I can be reinstated so I can talk to my parents. My mother is very up in age now. She is ill, and I do not know how many years she has left. It would be the utmost pleasure if you would help me to get my reinstatement as soon as I possibly can, knowing that I am sorry for what I have done. But remember this, I was sexually active before I was able to. Not that I wanted to, but because I was forced to, by brothers who said that they were part of Christ's body. Obviously, these vipers were no part of Christ's body, but they defiled mine. For years and years and years, these defilements continue to happen. I come to you with a heavy heart and a heavy conscience. Maybe to this day, still I think it is my fault. Maybe to this day, I'll continue to believe that it was my fault that I led these men down into the basement of my parents' house. Maybe I did do those things that they said that I did. But then again, how can a child seduce an adult? How can a baby seduce an adult? In all the writings, whether it be Christian, whether it be apostolic, whether it be from any other place, have you ever heard of it? Have you ever heard of a child being able to seduce an adult, a man who says he's part of Christ, a man who you see on the platform day after day giving talks? No. That's why I beg you to intervene on my part so that my daughter can see her grandmother and know that I do love them and my parents. And please, if I can have everything that I want, the only thing that I ask is that you give me my family back. This letter almost destroyed me, personally. I've never read such a violent, disturbing letter. To this moment, I can tell you that my hairs on the back of my neck are standing because of the perverse and vile thing that happened to this young sister. And I can't tell you her age, but she's young.
It's an incredible letter.
Yeah.
And it shows, again, the only thing that this girl wants is her family back.
And if
I would
say she's telling the truth.
The only thing this girl wants is her family back. She doesn't even want her brothers punished. She doesn't want it says here, she doesn't want her uncles punished. She doesn't want the brothers punished. She just wants to be back in the fold. That's how damaged she is.
Johnny, how old is that letter?
This letter's new. As a matter of fact, very new.
Okay.
We just got it.
A letter like that, would you say that the governing body sees it and deliberates over it together, or it goes